That night, I didn't understand any of it. I was cold. I was tired. And I felt like I had already been forgotten by the people who were supposed to love me the most. The man in the black coat asked me to sit in the car. The dog climbed in first, as if he belonged there. I almost said no. Because when you reach my age, you learn not to expect kindness. Especially not from strangers in luxury cars. But something in the man's voice felt careful, respectful. As the car pulled away, I stared out the window, watching the Christmas lights blur into streaks of gold. That was when he finally explained. The dog's name wasn't just Oliver. He belonged to someone who had once been completely powerless. Someone who had spent months in a hospital bed, unable to walk, unable to see a future. Someone I had known. Not as a rich man, but as a patient. 15 years earlier, I was a nurse. And without realizing it, I had saved his life. That was when I understood. This wasn't about a lost dog. This was about a debt that had waited 15 years to be repaid. And I had no idea how much my life was about to change. I watched my family celebrate Christmas dinner through a warm, glowing window, while I stood outside in the freezing dark. They were laughing, holding wine glasses, passing dishes. And I wasn't invited. I'm a 69-year-old woman. And that night, my own son told me there wasn't enough space for me at the table. So I sat alone on a park bench, trying not to cry, when I heard a sound. A soft whimper. Under the bench was a small dog, shaking, hungry, abandoned. I gave him my last sandwich, the only food I had planned for Christmas Eve. That's when I noticed something impossible. Hanging from his collar was a real diamond. Minutes later, a black luxury car appeared out of nowhere. And the man who stepped out said something that stopped my heart. He said, "The owner of this dog has been searching for you for 15 years. That night, I thought I was invisible. I was wrong. And what happened next changed my life forever. I watched my family celebrate Christmas dinner through a glowing window while I stood alone outside in the freezing dark. I gave my last sandwich to a trembling stray dog. And that single choice changed my life forever. My name is Evelyn Carter, and I'm 69 years old. By this age, you think you've learned how disappointment feels. You think you've prepared yourself for being forgotten. But nothing prepares you for the moment your own child makes it clear that there is no longer a place for you. 3 days before Christmas, my phone rang. "Mom," my son Andrew said, using that careful voice he's had since adulthood, the one he uses when he's about to hurt me politely. "About Christmas Eve. Melissa and I talked. We think it might be better if you don't come this year." I stood in my small kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound keeping me company. "It's Christmas," I said quietly. "It's your daughter's first Christmas." "I know," he replied. "But Melissa's parents are flying in from Boston. Her sister too. The house is small, and with the baby's high chair, well, it's complicated." "I can sit in the living room," I offered. "I don't need to be at the table." There was a pause. I heard Melissa's voice in the background, sharp, impatient. "Maybe we can see each other after Christmas," Andrew said. "Just us. Just us." As if I were an obligation instead of his mother. On Christmas Eve morning, I woke up to silence. No calls. No requests to bring my old apple pie. No excitement. Just quiet. I dressed carefully in my navy dress, the one I wore to Andrew's wedding years ago. It hung looser now. Retirement and a fixed income have a way of shrinking you, physically and otherwise. But I wanted to look dignified. I wanted to feel like I still mattered. I couldn't stand the thought of sitting alone in my apartment, staring at a plastic tree decorated for a grandchild who barely knew my name. So I drove. Not to knock on their door. Just to see the lights. Just to feel close. Their neighborhood in Willow Creek glowed with warmth, every house alive with laughter and movement. Families gathered. Children in pajamas. Grandparents holding babies. Andrew's house sat proudly at the corner of Oak Ridge Lane. I parked across the street and watched through the window. There they were, Melissa smiling in silk red, Andrew carving the turkey, her parents laughing, wine glasses full. And then I noticed the empty chair at the end of the table. For one foolish second, I thought it was for me. Then Melissa's sister sat down. I don't know how long I stayed there. Long enough for my fingers to go numb. Long enough to feel something inside me finally give up. I left the car and walked until my chest felt too tight to breathe. I ended up on a bench in a small park 3 blocks away, staring at the frozen ground and wondering how love turns into inconvenience. That's when I heard the sound. A soft whimper. Under the bench was a small golden dog, soaked, shaking, terrified. Someone's pet, lost or abandoned on Christmas Eve. "Oh, sweetheart," I whispered, kneeling beside him. I reached into my purse and pulled out the sandwich I'd packed earlier. Just ham on white bread. It was meant to be my dinner. I didn't hesitate. He ate gently, piece by piece, his tail wagging weakly. When I finished feeding him, I noticed his collar. Leather. Hand-stitched. And hanging from it, impossible to miss, a diamond. Not fake. Not decorative. Real. Behind it, a small metal tag with a phone number. My hands shook as I dialed. Ravenscroft Residence, a calm voice answered. "This is Thomas." I found a dog," I said. "He's alone in the park." There was silence. Then urgency. "Ma'am, please don't move. We're sending someone now." 8 minutes later, a black luxury sedan rolled silently into the park. The man who stepped out wore a tailored coat and moved with quiet authority. "You must be Mrs. Carter," he said, bowing slightly. "Thank you for finding Oliver." He explained that Oliver belonged to Julian Ravenscroft. The name meant nothing to me then. But it would. When he asked if I'd be willing to come with them, I almost refused. But then he said something that stopped my heart. "Mr. Ravenscroft has been hoping to meet you again." Again? On the drive, the truth emerged. 15 years earlier, I'd been a nurse at St. Anne's Medical Center. I remembered him then, not as a billionaire, but as Julian Moore, a man paralyzed after an accident, angry at the world, abandoned by nearly everyone. Everyone except me. I sat with him when others avoided his room. I read to him. I stayed late. I told him his life wasn't over when he believed it was. He never forgot. Now, Julian Ravenscroft owned a global software company, funded medical foundations, and credited his survival to one exhausted nurse who refused to give up on him. That night, in his warmly lit home, he offered me something I never expected. A job. Director of Patient Advocacy at the Ravenscroft Foundation. A salary that changed everything. A home. But more than that, purpose. When my son called the next day, panic in his voice after seeing my apartment empty, I felt something new. Peace. "I'm fine," I told him. I finally am. 6 months later, I sit in my office reviewing applications from families who need help, families who remind me of who I used to be. Sometimes, kindness comes back when you least expect it. And sometimes, giving away your last sandwich is the first step toward being seen again.